Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Talk of the Devils, brought to you by talkofthedevils.co.uk, your number one Manchester United podcast. Joining me tonight, I'm the host, by the way. It's not Keane. Keane couldn't make it, so I'm filling in. I'm the real substitute. Just kidding. Joining me, obviously, is regular of the show, regular of the channel. It is Phil Marsh. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, everything's going well. Football's back for me, obviously in a different capacity now. I'm a manager, so enjoying that. Obviously different to playing, but yeah, I think it's gone really well so far. So yeah, just looking forward to sort of our game as well tomorrow. Back in work as well. Obviously now with being working in a school, been a little bit chaotic this week, to put it mildly. Kids come back to school, full of beans, and yeah, it's been a difficult week. But other than that, mate, everything's good. United won again last night, so obviously positive on the show. Hopefully tonight, speaking about some of the players in a little bit more, a positive light. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I know, concerning the last time we spoke, it was not really positive. Last time we spoke, it was pretty much the end of the season, and we were both just waiting for the season to end. So
doom and gloom. Yeah, it was all doom and gloom. But yeah, hopefully now we'll have a bit more stuff to talk about that's positive and some better performances which we have seen already this season.
Absolutely. Before we jump in, obviously, guys, those that are watching, and whether it be on YouTube or Twitter, or even on Twitch, all the options, hell, even Facebook. We know Wayne pops in for Facebook from time to time. Get over here, hit the subscribe button, like this stream as well, and obviously subscribe to Talk of the Devils as well on Twitter, and check out the website, talkofthedevils.co.uk. We may as well dive in, Phil. Like, most important thing, obviously, last night's game. Before we discuss any players in particular, I just want to ask, what was your overall opinion of the game last night, and does this give you confidence going into the rest of the season based on last night's performance?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I looked at the group initially, I was more than confident that we would have more than enough to get out of the group. Obviously, didn't start the game, particularly great. I didn't think, but then built our way into the game, and I think it was more or less a comfortable evening. Really, I don't think we had to sort of get out of second, third gear to sort of get the win, but got two good goals in the first half. I think Sancho took his goal really well. And obviously great to see Ronaldo get his first goal of the season, albeit, from a penalty. I think, that'll do his confidence the world of good. I think he's sort of not looked himself, if I'm being honest, in the games that I've seen him this season, whether that's, confidence or because he's not been starting games and he's a little bit rusty. But yeah, I thought overall it was a good performance, clean sheet. Good individual performances from certain players. But yeah, I wouldn't sort of get too excited about it. I think it was just one of them games where we just did enough to get the 3 points, and we move on and we look forward to the next games now that are coming up.
I agree. And I was going to ask you about a few players in particular. I think the one obvious right now, because obviously it doesn't really affect me because I'm not English, but obviously one player who has been questionable is obviously Jadon Sancho. Obviously, like, he's had an indifferent start to the season, probably better than last year. Obviously, he was settling in process. I think he's had moments where he's been a little bit like iffy with him without the ball, but he has been one of our better players. And obviously, we have seen the England squad by Gareth Southgate. He says, and I quote, because this seems to be the most funniest quote of all time, "I will not pick players based on reputation." Then why are you leaving out Sancho then? Like, I don't get it. I mean, obviously, Andrew, regular in the live chats as well, he also appears on the Monday shows with when Wayne hosts Paul Parker. I see him now and again when I can. He says Southgate hasn't a clue if he's leaving Sancho out. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think it's just Southgate's just he's just resorting to type, or do you think he's just waiting for the World Cup maybe to bring Sancho in? Like, what do you think based on that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I mean, obviously, I was a bit surprised initially when I seen the squad and he wasn't, a part of that, squad for England. But I think, for him, it's sort of, I think he's performed really well this season. As you say, he's not hit the heights that we all probably expected straight off the bat. But I think, slowly but surely now we're seeing, the player that we was expecting when we signed Jadon Sancho. He's bringing more goals into his game now. His end product's looking a little bit better. And for me, yeah, it was a bit of a surprise not seeing him in the England squad. But if I was him, I wouldn't be sort of too disappointed. Although you do want to be involved in these squads coming up to the World Cup. But I think Southgate's got to pick him. For the proper squad when they go to the World Cup. I think this is just purely based on him maybe having a look at some of the other players. And as we say, there's players ahead of him there who aren't there really on merit. It's just off Southgate's either personal preference, who he sort of, every manager has sort of players who they sort of take more of a liking to. But I think if Sancho carries on the way he's been playing and keeps doing what he's been doing, then he'll definitely be on the plan.
Yeah, because I understand obviously Rashford's omission. Obviously, even he's been outstanding. Obviously, he's injured, so I understand that omission. I agree with this comment by Hella. Good evening to you all the way in Norway, by the way. Certainly better than Grealish by a huge margin. Southgate doesn't watch matches, it's obvious. Yeah, Grealish is not in the best of form. He's way off. Like Calvin Phillips is another. I don't know why he's been picked. Shaw Maguire makes absolutely no sense. I made a joke, funnily enough, yesterday to Keane and a few mates. I'm surprised that Gareth Southgate remembers the name for Kyle Tomori. Like, I'm surprised that he remembers England's best centre-back, in my opinion. I think that's really funny. And obviously, in terms of, like, back to our game, obviously, Hella says the second half felt like a bit like a training game. I think if one person definitely knows about training games better than anybody, it's definitely you, Phil. You score in them all the time. A comfortable win, really, in control.
Yeah, I think, as you say, that second half performance, it was just sort of, just not going through the motions, but I think because the game was sort of already dead and buried at 2-0, I don't really think they was causing us any massive problems. We just sort of, seeing the game out. And as I said, that's something that I think we've added to our game now under Ten Hag, where, 2-0, in previous times, we probably still would have been looking over our shoulder thinking, this team could potentially still get back into the game. Whereas now, I think, with the form of Varane and Martinez, and I think, the back four being given a run of games where they can sort of build a relationship together, I think we're seeing more of a, professional sort of outfit that can just see out a game and manage a game a lot better. And we've had a lot of clean sheets, since the Brentford game, which is positive. So yeah, just I think it was one of them where we just sort of got through the game and managed it really well, but didn't really have to get out of second, third gear.
Yeah, I agree. There's one comment that Savage made last night that I thought was actually very telling, but I'll come in a second. I just wanted to comment this by Keane. You said, good evening to you, mate. Says Ten Hag is at the under-21 game looking at the ones for the future, my manager. I think that's a brilliant testament by the manager. He's actually willing to go to these games. Obviously, it's something he did to Ajax frequently. He went to the Ajax young games. He was very involved with that. I think this is great for the young players. But obviously, yourself, you'll know as well, Phil. It's great for him that he's going to these games where he's getting that experience, and it will take him to the next level. And I think it's great that someone is there watching them. I think that's great. I don't know if Phil. Don't know if you froze there, Phil. You were sitting there less for a while.
Sorry, I did hear that. Yeah, it just dropped out for a second. I did hear that. Carry on.
I was just saying there, because you'll think you froze. Your freeze face is funny. I was just saying there, it's great that the managers at the under-21 game. Obviously, you'll know from experience, it's having somebody there who is watching your performances. Who, I think it was a great comment that was made about Eric Harrison, for example, in the 90s, where Sir Alex Ferguson would always go to matches and watch the young lads in the class 92, for example, after the first team finished training. So he was just as involved, and I think it's Ten Hag's got that same idea. Obviously, there's some fantastic comments in here in a second. We'll come to them, but just in the back of that though, Ten Hag going to the game. Is there any players for you that obviously that you would particularly want to look at, like that you would say maybe these are the ones you could see coming in the next few games?
Yeah, so just touching on that, I think that is obviously a fantastic thing for them young lads. Obviously, when you hear or you see that the first team managers obviously come into a game, that's a massive boost first and foremost. Whether that's before the game or during the game or whatever it is, you always want to put in a good performance regardless. But I think with the manager being present, that gives you that extra little motivation to want to try and impress and sort of go run the extra yards if you like. Yeah, for me, I think there's a couple of players who I think have sort of done really well in sort of pre-season and sort of maybe not been given as much an opportunity because of the players we've brought into the club. Iqbal, I think Hannibal. It's good to see that Charlie McNeil's been given a little opportunity to
I
sort of
agree.
squad. I think he's warranted that. And yeah, I think some of these young lads will get opportunities. If we do finish this group off in the next couple of games, and there's a couple of games to spare where we're already qualified, or the Carabao Cup, because of how many games there's going to be this year with the backlog.
Yeah.
Obviously, having the World Cup, I think some of these players will definitely be given minutes and opportunities to sort of see what they can do in the first team. So again, it's fantastic for them to sort of get a taste of first team football, and for the manager again to go and watch these games. He's showing that he's willing to give some of these lads an opportunity, which is great, because that was the feeling that we had when I was at the club. Although we had world class players in every single position, the manager would still dangle carrots for some of the younger lads to sort of still push through and get given an opportunity as and when he felt the time was right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one other name that's actually been mentioned by Andrew, I actually agree, is like Charlie Savage. I think he's another one. I think he's absolutely fantastic for a midfield player. I can't remember him fully. Is it Aaron Hounson, the young Norwegian boy? He played in the Youth Cup final. Yeah, I think he's got a decent chance. I think he's a good young midfield player. I don't know what his long-term future is, but I think he certainly has enough technical ability on the ball. I think he just needs to get more maturity in his game. Like, obviously that'll come through time, but funnily enough, I don't think Mark Biggs will agree with this one, but I certainly agree. I would play Zidane Iqbal over Donny van de Beek because he just does not seem to prove anything. Like, I feel sorry for him, but also I'm like, well, if you're not proving anything, I don't want you anywhere near my first team. I mean, I know
It's a strange one, Van der Beek, isn't it? Because I thought obviously when Ten Hag came in, it's obviously a player he's worked with. I thought he might have been able to get the best out of him, but he's just not sort of, even considered putting him in the team from what I can gather. So
yeah,
it's a strange one. Can't really put my finger on it, but obviously he's not, showing up well in training, or he's not, doing enough to sort of get him into the team, which
that's
is
the one.
strange.
Yeah, Isaac Honson. Yeah, that's the one. Him as well. Kobe Mino. He is.
Oh yeah, he looks good. He looks a player that
He's dynamite.
Yeah.
Comment from Dan. I said to Phil at the start of the season that I didn't see Donny playing. Yeah,
he did. To be fair, he did. He called that. I think it was one of them, obviously, because when a player's played with somebody previously and they come into the club, you sort of feel like they have that allegiance to him, and I was expecting Ten Hag to come in and at least give him an opportunity to show what he can do. But yeah, for whatever reason, he's obviously not been even given a chance by a manager who's trusted him in the past, and we know he's played his best football under, so it is a strange one. And there's only himself really who can get himself out of that situation, and he needs to be working a lot harder in training and doing as much as he can to try and show up and get the manager to change his opinion, because I think that's the one thing we have seen with this manager. He's came in and he's not scared to ruffle a few feathers and make big decisions, which is great to see. I think that was needed massively, and I think we've seen the benefits of that from some of the performances, and this back four now that we've got, I think is possibly the best back four that we've got, and I think the proof's been in the pudding with some of the performances and the results and the clean sheets that we've had.
Yeah, three clean sheets in 5. I think it's brilliant. A couple of comments. I'm actually scrolling back up because I've left a few comments actually. One comment, because we'll be coming to him very shortly, is please God protect Varane from injury during the international break. I agree. Question here actually, because everyone knows my opinion on him anyway. Thoughts on McTominay's form? I feel like he's really upped his game paired with Eriksen, having that mature player with him leading by example. Has seemed to really left an impression on him. And Hella's just straight in there, but I'll get your response to that in a second. Phil, Hella's said in response, he's been a proper baller since Eriksen came in. What is your thoughts on McTominay? Because I've consistently said like McTominay, like he has these moments where he can be really aggressive, he can control the play, he can be dynamic, and then after that he's like Casper. He just ghosts. It's hard to see him. You don't see any impact. But even I'll admit, like in recent games, like he has shown himself to be more consistent. I don't know if he's just trying to treat every game like a big game. I think he's just getting that mindset. No lesser team now, with all due respect, is a lesser game now. He seems to treat every game like a big game, and he seems to show that with his performances. But just from that perspective, in terms of like McTominay's form and how he's conducted himself since Eriksen's got himself into the team, what is your thoughts on Scott McTominay this year so far?
Yeah, so for me, I think, since Ten Hag's came in, I think McTominay's been probably one of our best players. I think he's shown that maturity and consistency now in his performances that we've, been crying out to see on a regular basis. I think definitely Christian Eriksen, coming into the team as well has had a massive impact and a massive effect on his game, because I think just, the way Eriksen plays the game and, his, vision and the way he sort of, controls that middle of the park, it gives Scott a little bit more sort of freedom to do what he does. And I think also another point, which I think, people have maybe, sort of underestimated, we've been putting in some good performances and we've been winning games. And I think a lot of people would have thought that McTominay would have been dropping out by now for Casemiro. But I think because of the way he's performed, and obviously the player of such a high caliber coming in, I think McTominay's seeing that as a bit of a, well, I want to keep my shirt. I don't want Casemiro to come in and take my spot, because I don't know how long I'm going to be waiting to get back in. And fair play to him. He's playing in the team at the moment on merit, and he deserves to play ahead of Casemiro for me at this moment in time, because he's been, as I say, one of our better players. So yeah, I think, as long as he can keep putting in them kind of performances that he has been doing, it could be, quite a while before Casemiro gets into the team, because I think he, when we played Real Sociedad the other day and he started, he looked a little bit rusty. He's obviously, still finding his feet, and I'm not going to sort of judge him, on these couple of games and these couple of cameo roles that he's, played. But I think, for me at this moment in time, Scott McTominay's got to play, and I think he's, more than earning, the sort of starting shirt. So yeah, fair play, and long may that continue, because as I say, I think when he's playing in this kind of form, he is a Manchester United player. We've seen other sides of his game, and we've seen, poor performances over the last years with his partnership with Fred. But I think at this moment in time, because of the impact that Eriksen's had, and he's playing out of his skin to try and keep his place in the team, that's where we are, and that's we're going to get the best out of him. So let's just keep it going for now, and we'll just obviously see how it pans out.
No, I agree with you. I completely agree. I think Keane's spot on when he says it's like McTominay is keeping Casemiro in the team on keeping Casemiro out the team on merit. Imagine saying that sentence 6 months ago. Imagine saying that 2 weeks ago. I don't think anybody would really. I was actually going to refer back to a few comments. I'll just quickly reply to this one. Next summer, I do think he's going. I was going to actually, because it was something that Robbie Savage said last night on commentary, is he was talking about Man United's performance. It was actually something you said as well about how we're 2-0 up and we're controlling the game and we feel like we're not going to lose the lead. But it was something different to what Savage said. You said about controlling the game. Savage said we'd like to see if what Man United will do if they actually want to go and kill the game even more. Like, will they go and score another goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, 4-0, 5-0 wins? We've not yet seen that in the main games. We only saw that in pre-season, but judging by Savage's comment and the way we did play last night, surely that is going to come eventually. It's just, it will take us a bit of time, but it's such a strong reflection of just how strong we are, particularly in the midfield.
Yeah, and I think it's one of them at the moment. I think because, in terms of building the side and looking to build that foundation, I think now he's sort of got that solid back four that we've, sort of going to rely on now moving forward. I think that's going to be, our strongest back four, certainly, at this moment in time. I think now he's obviously got to look at, maybe looking at sort of being a little bit more ruthless and having a little bit more creativity in the final third at times against, some of these better teams. Because I think, the other night, I think when we went 2-0 up, that was game over for me. I didn't really see them getting back into the game, if I was being honest. So, to see that game out and have a professional performance and just, do enough, I wasn't too bothered about that, really. I think it's more, as you say now, we, as a United supporter, we want to see, 5-6 goals, and we want to see, players, doing all these things and, entertaining us. And, we have got the players that can do that. I just think it's at this moment in time because certain players haven't been playing enough. Your Ronaldos of the world who are sort of a little bit rusty at the moment. Marshall's been injured. Anthony's just came into the club. I think we're a little bit disjointed, if you like, in that final third at the moment, and we've not sort of found the front three that's going to be settled and playing week in, week out, where they can build a sort of relationship with each other and get to that point where we are now with the back four, where everybody knows the job, everybody knows the positions, everybody knows what to expect. So yeah, I think obviously that will, it's not far off, but I think that's something now that I think the manager will sort of be looking at working on and just trying to sort of polish up on. Because as I've said, we have definitely got a lot of firepower in that final third. We've got a lot of options. We've got players who can certainly create and score goals at any given moment. So I think that's the next step now, sort of for Ten Hag to look at, how can we become, from being a very good side into, a top elite side like your Cities and, the world who, they've got players who, get that many chances. They're going to score 3-4 goals every game, really.
Yeah, exactly, and that's funnily enough what Hella says. It's what you want, though. Players up in their game when competition comes in. We haven't been able to sub like for like in ages, like City have been doing for a long time. Yeah, exactly. Like it really annoys me, like the abundance of riches that they've got in that squad. Like it's ridiculous. Like their B team, if they wanted to, could win the Premier League. It depends on what the A League, like their A team's like, but the B team certainly could just walk in and do it. And that really tells the story. Dan's made some interesting comments, actually. He says, I still think we have a problem in midfield. I can hear myself echoing. That's my fault, sorry. If we are honest, we were fortunate against Arsenal, and much of the problems were that we didn't retain the ball in that central area. And then he says, you can see why the manager wanted De Jong. And I actually think he would come in for Bruno, not like for like, but to create a central midfield free, like the 1-2. Do you agree with that? I certainly see his point there. I do think he's right.
Where he's coming from. Yeah, I can see where he's coming from, because I think, in that sort of period of the game where he's talking about against Arsenal, certainly there was looking the more likely team to sort of go on and win the game. But I always felt that, we was going to be a threat sort of with the pace that we had in behind and Arsenal playing such a high line. I think it was just one of them games where, Arsenal like to control the middle of the park, and they have got some good players in there like Odegaard and people like that. So I get what he's saying. I think Eriksen's been superb this season, and I think testament to him at his age to be playing so many games. And I think we can certainly still add to the quality that we have at the moment. And I think De Jong would be a great player to bring in. Whether that'll happen or not, we'll just have to wait and see. And I think that would obviously give us a little bit more control. But at the moment we're going well, and I think it's just a matter of horses for courses. Sometimes you're going to play some players in certain games to do a job against a certain team, and other times you can maybe be a little bit more expansive and sort of try and go a little bit more attacking. And I think the manager's sort of done that really well up to now, and picked some great teams to get the results.
100%. And Andrew's just reiterating it. Alvarez coming off the bench for Haaland is insanity. Exactly. And Hella says, I don't expect success overnight at all, but the excitement is most definitely back, and we're playing some beautiful football at times. Good stuff brewing. Speaking of beautiful football, we're actually seeing beautiful defence.
Yeah.
Finally, one thing that obviously I watched you guys a lot last year and I was on with you guys. The one thing that we did reiterate a lot was consistent back four. I mean, I know he's not with us tonight, obviously he's busy, but I guarantee if Lee was on with us, he would be jumping through hoops to talk about the back four at the minute because it is consistent, especially our main back four. Obviously, Hella's mentioned about Varane and avoiding injury. I think I 100% believe our best defender is Martinez. I said the minute the guy signed, I was like, this guy is it. Like I just knew for the beginning. Like Malacia's settled really quickly. Dallow's improved, and obviously Varane has managed to play 4 games in a row. Big shock. Like that is definitely good for us. But in terms of the back four, how confident are you like when that back four is playing? Because one thing I will say is I am a bit wary when it comes to the options behind at centre back. I think we're a little slow when you don't see Martinez and Varane, but the minute you see one of them, the pace is immediate. What is your thoughts on our back four, and particularly Varane? How do you think he is the crucial defender for us, or do you think it could still be Maguire? Or do you think it's Martinez? Like, just for yourself, like who do you think is that crucial player in this main back four?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I think since Martinez has come in, he's definitely sort of give us that extra dimension, and as you say, because he's comfortable on the ball, he's quick, he's tenacious. I think he's been a great sort of complement to Varane, and I think Varane had a lot of doubters last season, saying that he didn't really hit the heights. He was injury prone, all this, that, and the other. I think we're now seeing the player that we all knew was in there, and I think since Martinez has come in, that partnership has been sort of fantastic. And I think I've seen a stat before saying that Varane, I think every time he started, he hasn't lost a game for United. So
Yeah,
I think that speaks volumes, from his point of view. So I think it's, as you said, now we've got a settled back four. They're playing with each other week in, week out, which is massive. And when you look at all the top teams, around Europe, they all have settled teams that play with each other on a regular basis. So you can build in partnerships. I think that's what we've struggled with certainly over the last couple of years with chopping and changing. Obviously a lot of the stuff during COVID was we had our hands tied with that and it had to be done. But I think now that we've got this settled back four, we're seeing the sort of rewards from that because, as I said, we've looked really solid. I think Dalot is playing well going forward. I'm still not convinced on him defensively, but I think because the other two have been so solid, they're helping him with that defensive unit. And I think Malacia has been a revelation. I really do. I think he's Lee would probably know more about this than me, but for me as a left back, he seems to have everything. He's quick, he can get forward, he looks good defensively. His end product's pretty good from what I've seen. And he's only young, so he could be certainly one for sort of a mainstay at United who is definitely worthy of keeping Luke Shaw out of the team at the moment.
And I like his confidence as well. And I think the one thing that's testament is it's clear from the manager that he will not want to substitute Malacia like at any point. Like he would rather substitute Diogo Dalot. Like even though like last night I thought it was very interesting that he substituted Dalot for Luke Shaw and he put Malacia right back instead of a like for like. It's clear that although Dalot is his main right back, he's more interested in keeping Malacia in the team, and I think that's very interesting for his team.
Yeah, I think just on that, I think that is probably because I think he's more confident with Malacia in terms of the defensive side of the game. We were 2-0 up at the point when he brought Dalot off, and he was more than confident enough to put him in at right back, and I think that's just purely based on he's more solid defensively. And we was just looking at seeing the game out at that point. So yeah, I think he's definitely a player that's made a great impact since he came in, and I think he's another one. I like McTominay at the moment. He's there on merit. He's keeping his shirt, and he's keeping a sort of big player out of the team, as is Varane and Martinez with Maguire. He was the captain, they're keeping him out of the team. So it's good competition, and I think that's what we've lacked for a number of seasons. Really, we've had players who's sort of been in a comfort zone, knowing regardless of performances they're going to be playing in the following matches. Whereas now we've got a manager who's brave, we've got a manager who's willing to make big decisions, drop big players, and we've also got the competition where players want to keep the shirt and they're not bothered who's sort of who they're keeping out of the team, like
Yeah.
McTominay, Casemiro out of the team. As we said, then who would have thought that sort of a few months ago? But yeah, that's where we are at the moment, and fair play to the lads who are doing it.
And about time as well. We need that in the long term. And hell, again, another fantastic comment, because I'm actually just about to come on to him, funnily enough, with a very important question for yourself and the live chat. I have a feeling I already know what word I'm going to get as a unanimous response. But Eriksen and Martinez have made a massive change. Isn't this about the other players being so confident in these two that makes them play better as well? 100%. Like Martinez for me, like his confidence to come out with the ball, but also his aggression at winning the ball back, making back the yards if he's far forward, or going out to the left-hand side to mark the full, like to cover his fullback, so the striker who wants to come in on that side has got no way getting through. And Eriksen as well, like that guy's just got an amazing engine on him. Like for all he's went through, like his engine doesn't seem to stop, and his vision, like it's so acute as well. We've lacked that for so long, and I know Bruno Fernandes is like one of our like favorite players in the team and all that. His creative ability is amazing. He scores goals, but for me, like without a shadow of a doubt, Eriksen is by far our best creative player. Like there's something about him where like Fernandes is here, and then creative wise, Eriksen's way up there. Like it's not down to Bruno Fernandes. It's just who he is. Like he's a different type of. For me, he's a second striker altogether. But like Eriksen's just a pure playmaker, and it's. If we didn't have this guy, I'd actually wonder where we are, because we look so lost without him in the team. Like, what's your thoughts on Eriksen?
Yeah, I think he's been brilliant. I think, going back to his last season, I think when he, turned up to Old Trafford and was the man of the match for me when he played for Brentford. And that night he was spraying the ball over the park. And I actually said, I think, on the podcast after that game that, someone like an Eriksen would be perfect to come in now to Man United, although he is, getting on a little bit. I think he's ideal because the way he plays the game, the vision that he's got, the way he controls the midfield, and he can pick a pass for some of the players that we've got, the Rashfords and the Sanchos, and players of that ilk who can run in behind. I think he's definitely got that kind of pass in his locker, and I think he's brought other players on, as you say, because of the way he plays the game, and he's so clever with the way he moves, and he's got a great engine. He can get up and down. I think it's definitely had its impact on other players, and it's certainly been showing for me. I think, as you say, when he's not been in the team, we sort of look, nowhere near the team that we are when he is in the team. So again, it's a massive tap on the shoulder to him, because he had obviously that massive ordeal when he went down playing for Denmark in the Euros, and people would never have thought that he would have sort of got back to the level that he's playing at now. And for me, he's been one of our best players. So, credit where it is, and I think a lot of the younger lads can learn a lot from him. Just in terms of he's for me, he's the closest thing that we've seen to sort of like a Paul Scholes. The way he distributes the ball and the way he can break the lines with ease. And that the pass for Sancho yesterday was, not many players would have seen that. I think he just reversed that one back into him, and that was the sort of assist that got us sort of underway the other night. And I think he's done that, all season really, with some of them passes that he's been sliding through. And it must be a play. I mean, as a centre forward, he's the type of player that you sort of want, in that midfield, because sort of always, one pass away from being on the end of a ball where you can get a shot, or you're running through on the ball.
Absolutely. Is he signing the season for you?
For me, definitely for United. I think, in terms of for us, he's definitely changed the team. I think him and Martinez have been the two that have certainly transformed us into a decent side, into a side now that's, for me, we're definitely going to be challenging for top four, and I'm thinking that this year would be the sort of main aim, really, to sort of get back into that Champions League spot, and if we can get a domestic cup as well, I think that'd be, a great season. I think we've got the team now. For me, I'm confident going into most games, which I haven't been for a long while. After the results that we had last season and how poor we was, I'm actually now feeling more confident going into certain games and going into matches, thinking that we've got players now who can really have an effect on the game, who can manage a game, we can keep a clean sheet. We've got players who can create stuff, and we've got players who can certainly score goals. It's just about putting that all together now on a regular basis, which I think the manager's certainly working on, and we're looking more a Manchester United team than we have done for a long while.
Absolutely, and just I think that signing really has tipped the iceberg. I think we do lack a few extra players like that. I think we need like another 2 or 3 maybe of Eriksen's ilk in the key positions. I think Sancho over time will prove that, and on the wing position, I think that's what he is. Like generally, he's a playmaker. I think we need another like 1 or 2 for like in midfield, like over time, and I think we may need another like I think we need another Martinez. I know it might sound crazy, but I think we do. We need another back like to compensate right beside him.
Yeah, I think what highlights it more than anything is obviously don't want to keep referring to Man City, but I think because when you watch Manchester City and you see sort of the amount of quality players they have, especially in that midfield area, the service line for Haaland is constant throughout a game of football.
Yeah,
Whereas he can't not really score a couple of goals every other week, because the amount of service that he's getting and the amount of space that other players are creating for him because of how clever they are in their movement, it's ridiculous, really. So I think at this moment in time, with the likes of Eriksen, with the likes of Bruno, we've got great players there who can, pick passes out, who can, do all that thing. But I think, as you see there with City, they've got, 4 or 5 players there who, even if some of them aren't firing, there's going to be other players who can, have a worldie and produce. And they've got players who can come on off the bench and be like for like, and still have the same impact on the game. Where I think at this moment in time, we're sort of limited in that. And as you said, I think 2 or 3 more players through the door at the same level of quality that we've just been talking about, you likes of Eriksen's and Martinez, and we'd be more or less there for me. I think it's
yeah,
the only other real issue for me is obviously Cristiano's getting on now. We sort of can't hang our hat on Martial because he's so injury prone. If we can get a world class number 9 in the next year or so as well, that's going to be a massive
yeah.
addition that I think we're going to need to sort of fill if we are sort of going to challenge, your Cities and your Liverpools and, all this, and try and go deep in a Champions League, because I think that position, inevitably is the player who, is going to get you 25, 30 goals. And that's the difference between, finishing, say, 4th, 5th and finishing in the top 2.
Absolutely, because whether people like it or not, like goals definitely will decide. Well, obviously, our defense is certainly keeping us going as well. Like such a strong defense, and it's a key for us. I want to ask you as well, because obviously the season is still young. It's still, well, it is in fact still young. But just based on where we're at right now, obviously, we've had a couple of good games. We started the season really poorly. I mean, we didn't score a single goal until we played Liverpool. But from where the season started, that game against Brighton, to where we are now, where we won last night, and we won't be playing again until, funnily enough, the team we've been talking about all night, the Manchester Derby against Manchester City, which is going to be a very entertaining game. If you had to summarise our season right now, how would she's a pain in the flaming neck? How would you summarise our season right now? Like based on from where we've come, where it really was hectic.
Yeah, it's been miraculous, I think, because when I first seen, the Brighton game and then obviously the Brentford game,
Yeah,
my worries then was, it's sort of nothing's really changed in terms of from last season, with the sort of mistakes, players not really putting a shift in, not looking like scoring a goal, to then, the Liverpool game was just chalk and cheese, and I thought, you know, what has happened in such a short space of time in order to like enable us to sort of, you know, look like a bottom of the table team with no confidence to sort of now.
Keep her away from Old Trafford.
Yeah, to sort of looking like, to sort of looking like, you know, a team that had a bit of bite and a bit of fight about them. And obviously, you know, Liverpool game was brilliant in terms of, you know, all the players were at it. You know, they was putting challenges in. They looked like, you know, they wanted to sort of, you know, win a game of football. And I think since that game, you know, with the consistency of the team, keeping the same back four, and I think, you know, other than the sort of Real Sociedad, which was a lot of changes and players who hadn't been playing, and I think that was a sort of lethargic, lackluster outing, which should have ended in 0-0. Obviously, the penalty was a ridiculous decision. I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, I think since then, you know, we've looked like a real decent side, and I think, you know, that's down to keeping a consistent starting 11 and giving the players opportunity to, you know, play regular with each other and sort of, you know, get themselves up to scratch and sort of, you know, building relationships. And I just think that now we've got that confidence and that self-belief, and I think that's down to the manager. You know, he's definitely you know, changed something, whether that's on the training ground or, you know, speaking to players individually. And I think the competition within the group now is there for everyone to see. So, you know, that's exactly where we need to be in order to try and, you know, build a successful team.
I agree, and I think the one thing that highlights that perfectly is what you said. The manager's not afraid to make changes, and obviously he has made big, bold changes where Ronaldo's not his main striker. Like, Ronaldo's his striker in Europe, which says it all. I think that's the massive key. Andrew's comment here saying, hopeful to stay in Europa League by getting past the group stage. I think we will win our group, but it'll be decided on the final game. I think the final game, I think we'll be keeping it close, but at least we're not playing too far behind in terms of catch up. Like, obviously, Sociedad are 3 points ahead, but at least it's not 6 points, it's 3. I think we'll still win our group, but it'll be decided right at the very end. What about yourself, Phil?
Yeah, I think obviously, I agree with you. I think obviously it's going to go probably down to the last game or, you know, penultimate game. I think, you know, Sociedad, you know, won again last night, so they're top of the group. But for me, we should definitely qualify, whether it's, you know, top or second. I don't really see a massive difference with that. I think we've, you know, if we can keep playing the way we have been playing, and you know, with the players that, you know, we've got who are in form, I'd be confident there to sort of, you know, be happy with whoever we get sort of, you know, when we qualify. I think, you know, we should be looking at this competition now really quite seriously, and you know, with the players that we've got, and, you know, sort of wanting to bring a trophy back, you know, into Old Trafford. I think this season we've definitely got a sort of opportunity to sort of do that, and as I said, you know, making sure the players all keep fit, and it's going to be massive. I think that's going to be, you know, a massive thing for most teams this year when the World Cup goes. If you know, players are getting injured and, you know, teams are having to chop and change again once that's, you know, all done and dusted, it's going to sort of, you know, disjoint teams, and it's going to make, you know, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be teams who's going to be dropping points all year, I think, other than probably City, who I think will run away with it this year, unfortunately. But for me, you know, if we can finish top four and you know, win a trophy, I think that'd be a great sort of starting block for the manager. And I think, you know, we can improve on that next season, bring a couple more players through the door, and we'll be close to where we need to be.
I think it'd be good. I think for us, like, I know most people would take it, but I would, right now, I think this team needs a trophy more than it needs the top 4. I would honestly take a trophy over top 4. Like, even if we won the Europa League to get back into the Champions League and finish 5th or 6th, I would honestly be okay with that, because it deprives Arsenal. Because I don't think Arsenal are going to finish in the top 4, even though Arsenal right now are a very, very entertaining side. I think at times as well, like you mentioned, teams will drop points. I think they will drop points in crucial games.
Yeah.
If we can deprive them of that Europa League, I think it'd be great for us as well as confidence. And obviously, it should take the team forward. I think Hellas is actually brought up. I was actually just about to mention it. Is about incomings after the World Cup in the January window. I hope we add a midfielder, and I hope we get Timber. Like I hope we get those two in particular in January. I think if we get another defender and maybe a midfielder, because I don't see us getting any strikers in. I think we'll stick what we've got.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that in the summer we go all out. I don't know about you. There's your striker, a striker yourself, but well, you're a manager now, so you've got better options. I don't know about you. I know he's going to cost a lot, but I would go all out. I'd go for Victor Osimhen from Napoli.
Yeah, I think at this moment in time, I've had this conversation with Lee and Keane a few times that it's a really difficult position at the moment in world football to sort of bring someone to the club, who is a proper number 9 who's going to get you 20-25 goals a season straight off the bat. Like obviously City brought in Haaland. He's proven he's definitely going to do that this year. There's no doubt.
Definitely.
I think at this moment in time, there's probably only 2 or 3 that I would be like, yeah, he'd be a great fit for United, and yeah, he would come in and guarantee goals. He's young, he's fresh, he ticks all the boxes. So yeah, it may be a case of, as you say, waiting on that one and sort of just seeing if anything else crops up in the meantime. But for me, that's definitely going to be a position, certainly for the sort of next year or so that we're going to need to, build and try and get somebody who's going to be, a world class addition in that position. Because, as I say, you look at the other teams who have got them in abundance. We're going to sort of, need to, have someone who can deliver on a regular basis, because we've got all these players who can play, as a winger or an inverted striker if you like. But for me, you need somebody who's going to be a number 9 who's going to score them 15-20 goals just sniffing out in the box.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't actually got a proper, other than obviously Ronaldo who's getting on. He's best years of being and gone. Unfortunately, he'll still get you goals, and he's still a great person to have at the club at the moment. But when we're looking at the future and trying to challenge against City and stuff like that, I think a number 9 is definitely going to be a position that we're going to sort of need to strengthen moving forward.
I think this is a great shout. I think if Osimhen wasn't available, I'm not saying Martinez is worse than Osimhen. I think Lautaro Martinez is excellent, but I would go personally. I'd go for Victor Osimhen because he plays a similar style to what we do at Napoli. But Lautaro Martinez is absolutely brilliant, and we've already got the South American connection. Like obviously against Antony for Brazil, obviously he's got Licha. Hella says Okafor because he knows how much I like him for Salzburg. I think he's absolutely deadly, but I think he's going to end up at he'll end up at Leipzig next year with Benjamin Sesko. But Martinez would be a great shout. But is there anybody else that you would cast your eyes on? Mind you, it could be 2025. Man United could sign Karim Benzema on a free.
We mentioned Nkunku, didn't we, as well last year?
Yeah, we had good conversations with him.
But obviously, at this moment in time, it's a difficult one because obviously. It's difficult for me because as a striker, I'm looking.
You'd rather a pure 9, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's it. Like obviously a Lewandowski or somebody, but he's obviously never going to come to United at this part of his career. But they're the type of strikers that I'm looking at and thinking they're what I want at my club. They're the type of striker that I want to be getting 20-25 goals a season. At this moment in time, you're probably better to sort of judge this for me because you watch a lot of leagues, you watch all the German and Italian and all that. So
I get slated for watching. Bundesliga.
I think that's brilliant. But for me, there's probably a couple of gems that are hidden, in the league. And if we could maybe look and bring someone in who's maybe not a massive name, but he's going to come in and he's going to sort of hit the ground running and be a future star, then that's what we need, because we've seen it with other big clubs who's bringing players in who we've not really heard that much about, and they're looking top quality players, and they're hitting the ground running. Like Diaz at Liverpool did it. That Alvarez for City looks a bargain, if I'm being honest. Quality signing. So they are out there. It's just we need to be a little bit more savvy in the sort of recruitment department, which we have spoke about sort of for the last few years, that we haven't sort of had the best recruitment, and I think now is the time where, if we are going to bridge that gap, I think that's a sort of massive part in it. And, we've made some great signings. We need to keep doing that, and we need to make, even better signings moving forward.
Yeah, I think if he hadn't been snapped up by Juventus, I think Dusan Vlahovic would have been another one. I think if he hadn't been snapped up by Juventus, I think another one who's fantastic is Jonathan David. I think he's fantastic for Lille. I think he's fantastic for I think he's fantastic for Canada. There's some bizarre options out there. Like there's one other. He is an experienced option. I know, like we should be looking at younger players, but then again, we tend to do well. I don't know what people in the live chat. I think a lot of live chat are going to be shocked by this one, but I actually think Wissam Ben Yedder plays for Monaco is brilliant. I know he's 31 years old. He's turning 32, but I wouldn't mind where we develop a younger striker and we've got Ben Yedder for 2-3 years where he comes into the team, he gives us experience, he plays in a similar style for Monaco where they at times they're on the back foot or they're having to deal with a counter. He is a very tall physical striker. We can play the ball into him. And then another thing,
didn't it? Like when he came into the club, obviously he was older and he fit the bill for
exactly.
us. So it's not out of the question that could happen. So yeah, again, it's not necessarily bringing in somebody who's going to be there for the long term and somebody who's going to be there for 5-10 years. It's about who's going to come in and sort of deliver. Whether they're 30 odd or whether they're 25 doesn't really matter. It's just about who can come in, hit the ground running, and give us that 20-25 goals a season, which I think then would give us that sort of extra little bit of oomph that we're going to need to sort of be challenging against these other teams who have got strikers who are doing that year in year out.
Especially 31, and he's the Monaco captain. Like that's another thing as well. Hella's mentioned Bellingham. There's another player actually that I'd like to sign, but obviously he's playing in Italy, so I hope he stays there. And that's Charles de Ketelaere. He's phenomenal. Mike Mainan as well in goal. He's quality. Hella's saying I'd give anything for Bellingham, but so many clubs are after him. Looks like he'll end up at Liverpool. I don't. I disagree. I genuinely, as much as I think Man United would really want to get their hands on him, I think Jude Bellingham ends up at Real Madrid. There's just something about him. Like I think he's that next Galactico. I think they're trying to get away from it as much as possible, but still bring in the big names. But you've seen like the fact they've brought in some fantastic young midfielders like Tchouaméni, and they've signed obviously Valverde from a couple of years ago. He's still a mainstay. He's a fantastic player. You've got Eduardo Camavinga. I think Jude Bellingham is next. I think their midfield for the next flaming decade is terrifying after Kroos, Modric, and obviously Casemiro's left. I think he is. I don't know what you think, but I think Bellingham.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, Bellingham's a fantastic player, and I think whoever gets their hands on him, we've got a top player, and he's going to sort of only get better. He's only young, and he's a fantastic player, but I think he's not got into his prime yet. So, as I say, yeah, he could be Real Madrid's radar certainly, and if they do want him, I think it's going to be very difficult to. For someone to try and get him off that deal, because I think every player in world football, if Real Madrid come calling, at this moment in time, you sort of gonna go, aren't you? It's not even a question. They've got such a good team and sort of the sort of pull that they've got with the sort of fan base and the ground, and it's just one of the best places that you can play football, and it's going to be difficult for anyone to sort of compete with them for me.
Yeah, it's not just that as well. It's the same with us. It's their rich history as well. Like
I think United's still the biggest club in the world. I just think because of where Real Madrid are at the moment in terms of winning titles, Champions League winners, the sort of squad they've got. It's like where we was sort of 10, 15 years ago, and I think they've got that pull at the moment with whoever you want really they can bring in. United will definitely get back to that stage at some point. I think we're seeing little signs of that now, and when we do finally reach that point, it'll be fantastic to see. And I think some of the players that we've got at this moment in time are sort of helping us get ourselves on that right path, and it's obviously stepping stones at the moment, but we're heading in the right direction from where we have been certainly in the last couple of years.
Absolutely, and the attitude of the players is certainly reflecting that as well. Like they are hungry for it. It seems they're generally motivated. I think we spoke about length last year about like Rashford, where I said I thought he was mentally checked out and he should look to other players for situations, and he seems to have found that extra motivation. He seems to have his hunger back, and it's a shame that he's injured again because he has been absolutely brilliant for us, and long may that continue. Like I've said, like certain players, like I really want certain players to prove me wrong. I want certain players to continue to prove me right that they are good enough for the team. He's one that I questioned. I was like, well, even though you've had some good years, last year you were absolutely horrible. At least now he's starting to reflect that, and he's got his attitude, he's got his focus back, and he's looking after himself. He's just unfortunate he's injured, but we are going to keep going for about another 5 minutes. If anyone's got any questions for Phil, get them in here. Ask about his managerial career. I'm sure he'll do a lot better than David Moyes ever did. I just want to stick that in. But there is what I actually have. What? Sorry, you go.
Well, I was only going to say on the back of that, I think, what we've just touched on, I think, as you said before there, I think the thing that's been missing, certainly for the last sort of 4 or 5 years for me, is just if this group now that we've got can get their hand on a trophy, I think the sort of confidence and sort of the taste for success and victory that will give, I think will sort of, it'll be euphoric within the group. And I think that is, as I say, that's something that once you get a taste for that, some of these players who have been at the club for such a long time, other players who have been at other clubs and not, won any trophies, once you do get a taste for winning a trophy, it's contagious and you want to carry on and you want to try and, replicate that year in, year out. And I think, regardless of what cup it is, if we can get our hands on a trophy this year, I think that'd catapult us massively, 5-6 steps forward, and give us a miles better chance of sort of getting where we need to be. I just think, it's been such a long time, and I've been at the club when they was winning, and they was serial winners. It was like every single year, trophy after trophy, and I'm not saying if we win a trophy this year that we're going to win a trophy every single year after that, but I think we'll have a miles better chance of, being more competitive and sort of, giving ourselves the opportunity to be, because we know what that feeling is of winning a trophy and how we need to get there. And I think that's a massive part of, where Man United are at the moment. To get into the next step, they need to get that sort of monkey off the back with, not having a trophy in the cabinet for a while.
I agree, because the longer a trophy drought goes on, the burden it becomes. Like, will you ever get over that line? We said it so many times with a team like Solskjaer managed, for example. Like, we couldn't get past the semi-final stage. Then eventually we got to a final. We couldn't even win that. How long is it going to be? Like, the burden comes on. We've added players who have won everything at the top level, and the team is gelling so well around it. Eventually, you're going to see that trophy come in. I think our greatest strength is these players seem to be hungry for more. And we've got such a young squad, but it's filled with experience. That it's the proper experience, not just players that are in the right ages. It's players that generally know how to win. I think it's great for us, but obviously you mentioned about a trophy, like there's people who will dismiss the Carabao Cup, will dismiss the FA Cup now because they're more focused on other competitions. Personally, I don't care what we win. I would love to get a trophy. If we won the Europa League, amazing. If we won the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup and done a domestic double, and we didn't finish in the top 4, I'd actually be okay with that. I wouldn't mind another season of the Europa League if we won the domestic cup double.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. I think if you weigh it up this season, some of the fans would just, want to get back into the top 4, which I can totally understand. Obviously, Champions League football is massive. It's where the club needs to be. But for me, I'm sort of leaning with you. I think, I would actually take not finishing in the top 4 again this season to win a trophy, just because I think the effect that would have on the group. Obviously, financially, it'd be a massive loss not to finish in the top 4 for 2 seasons. But I think, in terms of looking at it, the bigger picture, I think, winning a trophy and what effect that and impact that would have on the group and the players and the mentality, I think, that would be a shot. That would be sort of like, not a big price to pay for sort of the long-term success, in my opinion. I think that would sort of, ignite, a lot of sort of fuel into the players to want to sort of do that on a more consistent basis year in, year out. So yeah, ideally we want to win a trophy and finish in the top 4.
Yeah.
But if push comes to shove, I think for me a trophy would be a more important sort of goal this year.
Especially as well because you would ideally think that by winning a trophy, it will spur us on next year. We're like, well, okay, maybe we get a trophy, but we still get the top 4, or we could end up finishing the top 3. I don't know how our season's going to end up. We could still end up finishing the top 4 and win a trophy, depending on how the season goes. But the way it's going, I think we're going to end it on one key thing that you said. I think it's absolutely spot on for the entire hour. We've went miraculous, considering how it started. The season has turned around. Hopefully, better comes. Obviously, you'll be tearing into Keane the next time I see you guys, obviously, because you'll be talking about the Manchester Derby, which obviously is our first game after the international break. That's going to be interesting. Hopefully, none of our players get injured. I wish no injuries on any player, but I'm hoping that for us, we're in a better position strength-wise than Manchester City are going to be. But knowing them lot, they'll probably have some sort of cheat code or like something. They'll do something bizarre, but if anything, it's good to be back on with you, Phil. Has been a while. So obviously to Keane and Wayne, obviously, thanks for giving me the opportunity to host tonight. For those that are watching, please do like, share, and subscribe. Follow Talk of the Devils on Twitter. Check out talkofthedevils.co.uk as well. Phil's Twitter handle there as well, Marsh20. Check him out. Ask him questions. He's got a wealth of knowledge. He'll probably help you about coaching because he doesn't play anymore.
Yeah, you have to say that now that I'm a manager.
I have to say it now because it's totally different ballgame.
I need to say that.
Absolutely, but it's good to see you, mate. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Mate. It's been a good chat, good catch up. As I say, good to sort of be talking in a positive light this time, rather than all the negativity that we had last year. So yeah, long may that continue, and hopefully, as I say, we can keep continuing the form that we've shown, and as I say, a trophy this year would be great for everyone involved with the club. I think it's been such a long time. We're well overdue, and I think that would be the start of something special if we can get a trophy.
I certainly hope so. Hella from yourself in Norway, thank you. It's a real pleasure. I've got one last question for you and one last question for the live chat before we go. We've still got months to go, but if you could put your hand on heart right now, what do you think happens at the end of the season for Man United?
For me, mate, I'm going to go for. I think we're going to finish in the top 4. I think whether that's 3rd or 4th, I think that would be my prediction. In terms of a trophy, I actually have a good feeling this year that we're going to win a trophy. I don't quite think we're going to win the Europa League just because I think there's some good teams in that, and I think when it gets to the latter stages, we might not quite have enough to get that. But I definitely think that we're going to win a trophy, whether that's going to be the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. In my opinion, I think any of them would be great, and I think that would give the team a lot of confidence. And if you'd spoke to a Man United fan after the first 2 games and offered them top 4 and a trophy, I think they would have snapped your hand off. So I think that's going to be my prediction for this season.
Yeah, and Hella saying top 4, 4th probably. Well, all I'm going to say is, if Mourinho can do it in his first season, why can't Erik ten Hag? That's all I'm going to say. To everyone that's watching, thank you so much. It's been me, your host, Reece, filling in for Keane. And of course, Phil, fantastic show. 1 hour, certainly not enough. But with you, mate, it feels perfect. Thanks, guys. Have a good long weekend. And if you do watch any football, remember, Liverpool fans will be suffering too. They'll be suffering because their team sucks. See you later, guys, and enjoy your weekend.